Good morning, Texoma, and thanks for joining us. I'm Ashley Fitzwater, and this morning we're taking an inside look at the Alzheimer's Association, specifically the North Central Texas chapter that services our area right here in Texoma. Well, joining me now with the very latest is Patty Taylor. She is the regional director. And Patty, we appreciate you being here this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And you know, I recently went to a luncheon and I heard more about the Alzheimer's Association, and I have to say, it's amazing, really, what all you guys do for our community and how many people this affects. I really don't think the general population is aware of how big this disease is.
Certainly, in the United States alone, it's over 5 million people have a diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. And then for every person with Alzheimer's disease, there's like 2.5 caregivers. So that's 15 million caregivers in the United States of persons with Alzheimer's disease. And if you were to put all those people into one state, it would be the 5th, that's just the caregivers, not including the persons with dementia.
Wow.
But if you just put the caregivers into one state, it would be the 5th largest state in the nation.
Wow.
Population-wise, yeah.
And it's growing, right?
Yes, unfortunately, this is an epidemic. It's growing. This is an age-related disease, and so as we are, you know, as our baby boomer generation is hitting that 65-plus age, we're seeing more and more cases of Alzheimer's.
If people just aren't really aware of the disease and what it is and how it affects someone, can you just kind of start with the basics?
Yeah, sure. Alzheimer's, you know, it is, like I said, it's a disease, not a mental illness. Alzheimer's is a type of dementia, and that's mostly confusing because people think, well, we just have dementia, but dementia is the main category, and many physicians, especially when they're beginning to give a diagnosis, they'll start with dementia because there's such subtleties in the different types of dementia, and so they'll just give a dementia diagnosis. But dementia being the main category, there's Alzheimer's dementia, Parkinson's dementia, Lewy body dementia, frontal temporal lobe, vascular dementia, all different types, but they're all dementias. Affects them, you know, with memory issues, just from daily tasks, having difficulty unlocking the door or, you know, buttoning a blouse, where getting dressed, you know, used to be real quick. Now it's taking, you know, 20, 30 minutes because we're unsure of the process. Balancing checkbook. I mean, we all kind of have issues with that occasionally, but persons with dementia, you know, that really can affect them.
Now, I know there's a lot of people who may be listening and they're probably worried, you know, because you start talking about this and you start talking about the warning signs, and we all forget things,
yes.
you know, and,
yes.
and you maybe all have moments where, you know, like you said, you do have difficulties maybe doing those things.
Right.
But there are specific things to kind of look for, and how do you tell the difference if it's just I'm forgetful or it's related to dementia or the type of memory loss I need to be concerned about?
Well, one of the key things is if you go to alz.org, you can take a little quiz, and sometimes when I read that list of the 10 warning signs, on any given day, I could have 5 to 7 to 8 of those diagnoses. But what we're looking at is abnormal memory loss. So everything is, the great thing about that website is it will give you an example of what's normal and then what's abnormal, so what to look for. And we always recommend that families create a log. So when you go to the doctor, you don't just say, oh, I'm forgetting things, because they'll say, well, that's part of aging, that's normal, and it is. But you can be more specific and say, you know, 3 times last month I went to the grocery store and I couldn't find my way home. And then there's also lifestyle issues that can actually speed up the process. It's sort of like your body is almost predetermined to get this disease, but when you show signs, it can be determined many times by the lifestyle that you live. Persons with diabetes and heart disease can actually show signs of the disease 10 to 12 years sooner than if they didn't have those issues.
It's so interesting to hear how other things can play a factor. Even how your health, you know, just
yes.
one more reason it goes back to taking care of yourself.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Yeah, that healthy heart equals a healthy brain. It's it's important. It's key.
Yeah. Well, you know, we are very fortunate to have, you know, an association, a nonprofit right here in our community that's
yes.
helping people. And I love this because their mission is really twofold. And I'd like for you just to share a little bit about what that is.
Yeah, with our mission, as you said, it's twofold. We are, you know, looking to find a cure for this disease. I mean, that's really our ultimate goal, is to create a world without Alzheimer's. And so if you imagine our logo, and you know, many people say, oh, it looks like a puzzle piece. Well, the first bubble is actually the person, because we are caring for the caregiver, or mostly I work with caregivers who are doing the day-to-day caregiving for persons. And so we're trying to do education, support services, connecting them to resources within the community. That's mainly what I do, is a listening ear, and also just sort of helping them plan ahead. Many times when caregivers come to me, they have an immediate problem, and so I'm trying to address their immediate concern and also think 3 to 5 moves ahead and helping them start thinking about those things, because as caregivers, they're so stuck in today, this is what we're dealing with, and I just need help with this, but I want them not to be blindsided for the future. So that's one aspect of what we do, and then the other being the science, finding the cure.
Being a nonprofit, obviously you're looking for donations and funds to come in.
Yes.
Is a lot of that money used for research then, or is it used to help caregivers maybe with that education, with maybe materials or books?
It's used towards both. Our largest fundraiser is the Walk to End Alzheimer's. There's some money that stays locally, of course, because we do have this office that we provide services for people in the area, as well as anywhere between 35 to 50% goes towards research in any given year.
Back to the walk, I love how it's something active, getting out there,
yes.
Again, helping your heart, keeping you healthy while helping to raise money and support, even awareness, about this.
And we call it a day of hope. I mean, unlike some other walks of wonderful, worthy causes, we don't have any survivors with our disease. And so many caregivers and many persons who get a diagnosis, it can be sort of a moment of, I just might as well give up. And so for us, it's a movement. We are making a change. We are attacking this problem. We're going to make a change. And that's what WALK is about. We do a beautiful ceremony every year to recognize those living with the disease, those caring for persons with this disease, and those who've lost loved ones to this disease.
On a personal level, Alzheimer's has affected you too. Can you tell me how, and if your role has helped you at all cope?
When I started with the association 5 years ago, I was not personally touched by this disease. And about 1.5 years ago, my grandfather was diagnosed with dementia. And for my mother and my aunt, it was very hard for them. And I seemed to be the calm person in the storm to sort of help, bring them back. And it is a tragic disease. For me, what I carry with me when I go home is I'm not able to fix what's going on with the caregivers, and I call them my caregivers because I'm so connected to them that when they're in pain, I feel it, and I've been blessed to work in the nonprofit realm for many years, but to not be able to fix the problem is really hard. So.
I bet. And I can see how maybe at times it's more difficult on them too, correct? I mean, because they're the ones who are seeing what's happening to their loved ones.
Exactly. And many of our caregivers, they have, this is not how they plan to spend their golden years. And when this is someone you love and someone you've been able to communicate with a certain way, and all of a sudden now you can't communicate with them at all, it can be very difficult. But, I really feel that every penny we help raise makes a difference, and we will find a cure.
Absolutely. Going back to that hope, the
yes.
walk of hope, and really this organization of hope, I think, right here in our community, too, that is providing hope to others who are living with the disease and, of course, caring for those. We are going to take a quick break, Texoma. Patty, we just appreciate your insight so far to this, and we're excited to learn much more, so don't go anywhere, Texoma. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Inside Texoma. Once again, we're taking an inside look at the Alzheimer's Association right here in Texoma. And joining me now with much more is Gloria Steimel. She's joining us. And 7 years ago, Gloria, your father was actually diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And if you can just take us back to that day or that time whenever you first learned about that, kind of the emotions and what went on.
Okay. My dad had just retired, and what they were planning to do, my parents to go on trips and do things together like retired couples do when he he actually had an accident and he was hospitalized, and it was like right after that that we noticed that he was, forgetting things, or couldn't make the coffee anymore, couldn't go to the cabinet and get a salt shaker out, little things like that. And then he was tested and diagnosed with Alzheimer's.
At first, though, was it just kind of chalked up, I guess, to the accident then?
Yeah, we thought, wow, maybe something with anesthesia or medication, caused him to have some memory loss. But then as these losses of memory became more apparent, and like little tasks like making a pot of coffee he couldn't accomplish, that's when they decided he needed to go in and be tested, and he was tested and confirmed Alzheimer's.
How old was he when he was diagnosed?
He was 71.
71. So again, close to that age as you're talking about the 65. Now, I have a quick question, because I know a lot of us may be thinking, what are the benefits, or are there any? Because we know there's no cure for this, but if you are able to kind of see those warning signs, as she mentioned, are there things they can do to maybe help slow it down?
Certainly. Early detection is really key with this disease. The medications that are out there show their biggest promise for persons who get on them in the early stages. And that's one of the things that sometimes with the early stages, it's really easy for us to sort of, oh, that's just a bad day, or oh, just a bad moment, I'm having a senior moment, or those, things like that. I'm a little stressed. Once I'm not so stressed, these things will kind of work itself out, and that's why, again, going back to that log. But the medications, as I said, it shows a promise that give people a longer early stage quality of life and a shorter late stage. That's what right now the research is showing with the medications.
Was he able to get on the medications a little earlier then?
They started him out with medications, and as his disease progressed, they modified or changed the amount that he would take, or the drug that he would take, but he stayed on them for a good while. Since he has gone into care at a care facility, he has quit taking them, because as it's progressed, he's had difficulty swallowing pills and anything like that. I mean, even food, all of his food now has to be ground for him, because it's just chewing is a difficult task for him, and it is all because of the Alzheimer's.
We hear these stories, and you think about your own father, or maybe your own situation. Emotionally, how were you maybe when you first learned about this, and maybe even where you are today?
When he was first diagnosed, I just didn't want to believe it. And it was hard to accept. My mother was really strong, has been throughout all of this, and she's the primary caregiver for him. Now I just treasure every minute that I can spend with him. Because I don't know how long he'll be there, because he is in the late stages. And so I go up, and visit him quite often and spend time with him. Like I said, I treasure those times now.
Gloria's been a great daughter. I mean, I really know Gloria's mother mostly. She's been very active at support groups and attending education programs and learning everything she can about this disease. And that's really sort of helped her some. But Gloria's mom, there was a point when I was a little worried. I was worried and trying to kind of mention some things, and then I learned that Gloria's children, her daughter and her sons, were also kind of approaching her in that direction, and I think kind of as a team effort we got her mom sort of the help that she needed, because it was really hard to sort of sometimes make those decisions. I know that as a family they had to step in and just say, Mom, for you, it's time for placement, or it's time for
she didn't want to let go.
Sure. Yeah.
Statistically, 45% of female caregivers will die before the one they're caring for, almost half. And so, I see that statistic, and I can sometimes see caregivers, and I knew she had a strong support base, and I'm just glad that, as a team, everyone was able to come together and support her, not push her into anything, but to let her know that she had that support.
Yeah, and even now, I have brothers who live here locally, and I have a sister who is out of town, and she feels so upset and stressed because she feels like I'm not helping. But any support mentally, talk to Mom on the telephone, anything like that is support. But we all take and do little things for her to help her go where she's able to spend more time with our dad. Whether it's I take her dinner almost every night, and I have brothers who come in and they do her yard work and house repairs or whatever. So she doesn't have to worry about that. It takes that stress off of her so that she can go and then spend time with him. And she does. She spends time with him every day.
I love that aspect of it because you don't realize all they may be going through. What are things that people can do to help support families who maybe are dealing with Alzheimer's?
I think for either of us, just a phone call that says, I'm thinking about you, can I do anything for you? A hug. I mean, there's lots of emotional support that's very important too, and just knowing that they're there and they're caring and they're
I like that because there's simple ways too. Maybe you think you don't have money to financially support or you don't have a lot of time, but you know, maybe dropping them a letter or something, you know, that's things we can all do. Well, Gloria, we appreciate you sharing your story and giving us just a little bit of a look inside your life. Definitely things I think we can all take away from this, and no matter what side of the story that you're on. So we really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, stick around, Texoma. We are not done. We're actually going to hear from another caregiver, and her husband was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. So we will be right back with much more. Welcome back to Inside Texoma. Once again, we are taking an inside look at the Alzheimer's Association, the nonprofit that specifically services so many families right here in Texoma. And one of those caregivers that they help is Judy Crumpton. She is joining us now with her story. And Judy, first of all, we just appreciate you taking time to be here this morning.
Thank you. I appreciate you having us.
Absolutely. And 11 years ago, you were telling me during the break, your husband was actually diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and he is currently in a nursing home receiving some help. So can you, though, before we get to where he is today, maybe take us back 11 years, and did you see early signs, or how did you get to that diagnosis?
Well, mostly it was the memory thing, small things, just, and his doctor at the time said, I want to send him to a place here in town and have them check him. He said, you know and I know he has Alzheimer's. And they said they did that little 5-question thing, and they told me no, he didn't. But the memory kept getting worse and worse. At that time, we were dealing in antiques and all, and we were traveling twice a year down south. He was a lot of help at first because it's hard work. And finally, we just had to give it up. And then on one of our trips back, he got lost from me, and that was really a painful ordeal for me because I had to call for help to find him. And I didn't understand about Alzheimer's. I finally got with my son, and we went to visit with Patty and found out more. It's just such a horrible, hateful disease. And we finally, 2 years ago, had to place him in a care facility. It just got to be more than I could handle. It was just a very, very stressful time. But, you know, it can happen to any of us. It can happen to me, and it can happen to you. It could happen to Patty. It's just so important to find a cure, and I just hope everybody can find that out. You know, 90% of the people I talk to and mention Alzheimer's have someone in their family that has the disease or has passed away from the disease. And it's just a sad, sad thing.
You know, being the wife of someone who is diagnosed with that, and that's your best friend, what gets you through this?
Well, I do go to the support group, and that helps me. And another reason I go to the support group is to help other people. But I pray a lot, and you know, one of the things that doesn't rob these people of is their need for love and the love they can give. And so many people don't realize that. They just want to be loved, and I give a lot of that.
When we have new people that come into support group, and it's when there's someone else that can relate to, it's not just coming in and being told, oh, okay, this is what you're dealing with and this is what's going to happen. But when someone can say, yep, been there, that's what many times the caregivers need, is just that validation of, I'm not alone in this journey.
The stage that he is in now, what are some of his limitations?
He does not eat by himself. I go twice a day and feed him. If I can't be there, of course, they feed him. He doesn't talk anymore. He used to walk all the time. His walk has slowed. As far as his general health, it's good. It's just the Alzheimer's eating away his brain.
So although he's not able to communicate with you, though, you had said he is still able to love, though, right? And able to realize you're loving on him.
He does. He does. He knows I'm there. He used to get upset if I wasn't there, but now he deals with it, and he knows. He smiles when I hug him, and he knows. So,
what do you think has been the hardest thing that you've had to overcome or deal with or learn to accept?
well, the hardest part was not having him there. A lot of times, and it still happens once in a while, I look over to his chair and he's not there. Look over to his side of the bed and he's not there. And that was the hardest part. I've pretty much come to deal with that. But not having him there beside me to do the things that we had hoped to do. And I mean, he just turned 71 the other day. So, you know, we're not old. We're not, I mean, there's so many things that we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And you just never know.
This just go back to your faith and, you know, just to pull you through. And
Has to be. It's just one of those things. You just kind of have to take what God puts on you and move on with it. We lost a son 17 years ago, so we had to go through that, and that was probably the hardest thing we ever went through. And then this, and you know, if you don't just take it and have faith, you just can't make it.
Yeah.
So,
what other advice or wisdom can you share with those who may be watching today? Maybe they just got a diagnosis. Maybe they're listening and they're like, you know what, there's someone in my family who has those warning signs. What can you say to them?
I would tell them first to get educated, because I didn't know. I argued with him about a lot of things, which is a mistake a lot of people make, because I didn't know. Yeah. And get educated, join a support group, because that is a lot of help. Yeah. And first time I went to a support group, there was just Patty and our facilitator and me, because they forgot to call everybody else. And God had a hand in that. And so I got a good session out of that. And my our facilitator told me then, she said, don't you think you deserve to spend out the last quarter of your life in peace by placing him? I said, yes. So that's what I've done.
This disease just robs people of their future and their dreams and their plans, and there's a lot of anger and frustration that caregivers have, and rightly so.
Right.
We just want to be able to help families. Unfortunately, I don't have the magic pill or can wave the magic wand, but there's some things that I can help families think about, plan, and prepare for that will, when tougher decisions come down the way, that they're kind of educated and prepared for.
We're very fortunate to have this association right here in our community to help these families. We need to take a quick break, so don't go anywhere, Texoma. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Inside Texoma. Once again, we have been taking an inside look at the Alzheimer's Association right here in Texoma, the North Central Texas chapter. Patty Taylor, the regional director, we appreciate you bringing those caregivers with you. Their stories, incredible.
Yes.
And it's just really neat to see how this association offers so much guidance and support, not only to those who have the disease in a way, but to the caregivers.
Exactly. I mean, these are wonderful people dealing with something pretty terrible, and their strength just comes through, and they're an inspiration to me.
And if there are people out there who want to get involved,
Yes.
How can they do that?
Give me a call at 767-8800. We have some volunteer opportunities throughout the year. We also have upcoming workshops and education programs that love for people to get educated, and sometimes it's just to educate a neighbor or to educate themselves.
Sure.
And we just encourage people to get involved that way.
And of course, financial donations, if they'd like
Yes.
to make those.
Oh, yes, we're always open to financial donations. We're still just a little shy of our $55,000 goal, and we just would appreciate any help if anybody who'd like to give. So.
All right. Well, Patty, thanks again for your time and for sharing so much with us. It's a blessing to have this association right here in our community. Take advantage of it, Texhoma. It is there to help serve you. We want to say thanks for joining us this morning. As always, we hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you back here next Sunday morning.